Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Thursday, January 10th, 2019. And the meeting will now come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Draper.
Here.
Ms. Atkins.
Here.
Mr. Jensen.
Present.
Mayor Abu-Osley.
Here.
Mr. Sternad.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Ms. Gedalia.
Here.
Okay, at this time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, I will come down front for a ceremony and a proclamation. First, I would like to acknowledge that yesterday, the 9th, was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which was a day that was founded in 2015 to thank officers across the country for all the daily sacrifices they make for their communities. And we certainly want to thank our chief and all the women and men of the police department for everything they do for our community. So, all right, I will come down front now for the ceremony and proclamation.
Take an opportunity tonight to recognize one of my very special employees for two separate lengths of service that he's provided to the city of Marion. Sergeant Jason Schamberger became sergeant last year. But for the last 14 years prior to him being promoted to sergeant, pride, sacrifice from his family to become a member of that team. The assistant team leader, probably lead the team again someday. Him for his efforts. On behalf of the team members, the city of Marion, Marion Police Department. This one's kind of tough. I'm going to have Sergeant Phil Ford come up and talk about the Marion Police Department's K-9 program for just a second. And then this cute little fella you see up here on the screen was K-9 Lingo. We lost K-9 Lingo this year. He was a great servant to the city of Marion. They become part of our family. They really do. They train with us. They live with us. And we lost Lingo this year. So Sergeant Ford's going to talk a little bit about the dog and the program. Then I'm going to once again honor Sergeant Schamberger and K-9 Lingo.
The program started back in 1996. My partner Yuri at the time, and I was the starter. Nice dog with his partner Lingo, and passed away. Said the dogs become part of our family. They are my daughters from my dog. I call him their brother. And community and be a lot further for the community. Currently, 3 dogs that are still working. Fights and 1 mom dog. Jason and I worked side by side for a very long time with our dogs, and it's very hard to get that phone call.
Lingo badge. We have it displayed for Jason to keep on his mantle. And so
Okay, we have a proclamation tonight for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day 2019. Is there anyone here from the Civil Rights Commission to accept the come on forward? How are you? Thanks for being with us. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Fred Brown. I'm part of the Marion Civil Rights Commission.
Okay. All right. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas the King Holiday and Service Act, enacted in 1994, designated the King Holiday as a national day of volunteer service. And whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights empowers us all, the principles enshrined in the Declaration are as relevant today as they were in 1948. And whereas since 1994, millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to serve their neighbors and communities on the King Holiday. And whereas serving on the King Holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, meet local and national needs, bring our citizens together, and strengthen our communities and nation. And whereas the King Day of Service is the only federal holiday commemorated as a national day of service and offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities on the holiday and make an ongoing commitment to service throughout the year. And whereas each of us can and must contribute to making our communities better with increased opportunity for all our citizens. And whereas citizens of Marion, Iowa have the opportunity to participate in events throughout our city on the King Day of Service, January 21st, 2019, as well as create and implement community service projects where they identify the need. Now, therefore, I, Nicholas Abu-Asili, Mayor of the City of Marion, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Martin Luther King Jr. Day 2019 as a day of service in Marion, and call upon the people of the community to pay tribute to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through participation in community service projects on Martin Luther King Day and throughout the year. Someone take a picture. There we go. We need to get this up. Yeah, there we go.
Goodness.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda under presentations, we have a presentation regarding Neighborhood Transportation Service by Kay Fisk, Director of Transportation Resources. Okay, welcome. Good to see you again.
It's me again, yes indeed. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm happy to be here again. Each year I come and talk to you about neighborhood transportation service and the service we provide not only just in your community, but in Hiawatha and Cedar Rapids as well. You'll be interested to know that the service in Marion has increased almost 2,000 in the last year. So there's more people coming in to work here. There's more people that are working out of this community and going to other parts of the metropolitan area. So I thought that was a very good sign. I thought it was growth is always good. So before I go through the paperwork that I put in your pass-out material there, I want to just talk about a few other things that have been going on over the last year. We were very lucky to be able to secure some money that was kind of overfunding that someone had. The Lynn County had extra money, and they ended up letting us write a grant to be able to secure that money, and we were able to buy 2 buses with that little windfall, which was wonderful because we got a lot of miles on our buses and vans, and that's one of the hardest things to go out and purchase is a big thing like a bus. They cost from $65,000 to $75,000. And even if you get grant money, it's never quite enough. You're always searching for the rest of it to pay for it. So we really felt blessed to be able to have that. You'll also be happy to know that we've been working with the Willis Dady Center to get people that are homeless into shelter in the evenings. If you stepped outside today, you know that it would be very unpleasant to be out there tonight. I know that there are people in Marion that are using that shelter, and NTS is providing rides to Cedar Rapids for that usage. So I think the police department is aware of that, right? Good. And so whenever that particular need arises, well, we're glad to take care of it. Another thing that we've been doing over actually the last 3 years, but each year it gets just a little bit stronger, the corridor medical shuttle that runs from downtown Cedar Rapids to Iowa City, and it goes to the University Hospital, Mercy Hospital, the Vets Hospital, the River Landing area where there's medical facilities. So this is a service that's free. All you have to do is go to the location where the pickup is. You do need to call in a day ahead so we know that you're coming, so we don't go off and leave you. But there's 3 times a day that the bus goes down there and comes back, so there's adequate amount of time for people to make their appointments far enough ahead. So there's a lot of good reason there to be happy for that as well. Another thing that I thought about after I got here tonight that I'm really proud to be able to talk about, we are working with Jerry Foxhoven, who is the Director of Human Services in Iowa, NTS is, and we are trying to figure out a way to streamline the process for non-emergency medical rides. There's a great deal of bureaucracy that's tied up with our Medicaid system now, as we all are aware of, I think. But this is hurting people who are disabled, who are adults that maybe don't have the mental capacity to know how to schedule rides and that. So we're trying to streamline that process a little bit, and we're making a recommendation to do a pilot program where we would bypass the broker, the 3 different levels that the process. Now, you're shaking your head. I like that. It's very bureaucratic, and there's so many different ways that we could save money. Best, we could make the customer on the other end, the patient, be happier and get the treatment they need and not have to go through all this. So we're working on that, and actually I'm working a little bit with somebody in Washington, D.C. on the same thing, on a federal level. So who knows what I'll tell you next year. I hope it'll be something positive, but it is a challenge. It's one of our biggest challenges. Medicaid has really ripped us apart. We don't get our funding back like we should. We get it back eventually, but it's not timely, and you have to fight for every penny of it you get. So enough said about that. So now let's go to the packet of materials, and of course you know the reason I'm here is to talk about the funding that we always ask you for each year to help us continue to serve Marion. And our other 2 cities have been very generous the last year. I've already visited Hiawatha. They've They've given us a nice increase on their budget, and so is Cedar Rapids. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we've done over the last year. And of course, you can see on the figures that I've given you that the ridership is up. You're almost at 10,000. That's really good. And you can also see how many rides are going in and coming out of the city. So I think that's interesting for you to know. I was surprised. They're really not that too far apart. They're not in numbers. They're pretty close. So I've broken it down, and you can tell how much it costs for us to produce a ride for each time we pick someone up. It's $22.65, and I always make sure that I explain for anyone who might not be aware of this, how does it cost $22.65 to give someone a ride? You take the total number of rides you've given over the past year, and you take and divide that by your overhead expenses, like your drivers, their benefits, the insurance, anything that is overhead. Gasoline, of course, your fuel is a big part of that too. You add all those together and then divide it by the number of rides you have, and that is what it costs you to provide a ride each year. I think that's kind of deceiving if you don't explain that, so I always make sure I do. So the bottom line is those 9,743 rides cost us over almost about $220,000. So and you're thinking, oh boy, that's a lot of money just to ride back and forth. But you got to remember, these are people that are going to work. These are people that are spending money in your community. They're paying taxes in your community. They're paying school taxes. They're doing all the things that we want people to do when they're working. So even though this seems like it might be an expense, it really is. It's not costing as much as you might think it is. We charge $6 a ride for the fare, and usually people will only take us to work one way. If they go to work on the city bus, they'll take us home at the end of their shift. And if they're going to work in the middle of the night, then they'll probably take the city bus home in the morning. So they usually are only going one direction. The 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. service stays very steady. Always have people kind of wonder when you talk about 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. service, who works at that time of night? We have people in hospitals, nursing homes. We have people who are janitors and custodians and security people, and people who are starting to prepare meals for big places like schools and Rockwell and those different, Collins, I can't say Rockwell anymore, Collins and large places like that. So these are the people who are going to work that time of night when the rest of us are sleeping. So I think that's important to know. When it all breaks down, I'm not going to go through each one of these figures with you, but after we take the fare and add it in with the amount of money that we take in, we still are about $162,000 short of our goal of being able to pay for our service. And that's why we come to you and in the other two cities too, is to ask you to help subsidize that. And you've always been wonderful in the past about that. I put a request at the bottom here for an increase. It's a 5% increase. And I would like to hope that you'd entertain looking at that and granting our request for that for the upcoming year. There's also a sheet in your packet here that has the list of businesses that we serve, either taking people to or they're coming in to work here. So I think you'll find that to be quite comprehensive too. It's a pretty good list. I may have missed some of these too, or we've got a new system that we're all trying to learn, and I may not have picked everything out of that. So I guess at this point I also added our year-end report, our annual report in there, and you can take a look at that. It doesn't talk about just NTS, it talks about Horizons, other programs as well. And it's important because they're all things that can also help your community, and your community should know about. So I guess I would ask if there are any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, sir.
Real quick, you might have said it. What are your hours of operation?
We start at 6:30 in the morning, and we run until 8 o'clock the next day. So we're really
Okay.
running a little more than, a 24-hour shift, actually, or more than a 12-hour shift. We have people who are still, getting off of work at certain times that we've contracted to pick up. So 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Other questions? So you mentioned that you started transporting people to the shelters.
Yes.
So is that how is that contact made? Is it by the individuals? Is it by the police department?
I think the police department is
It's the
the
police
contact point. Is what I think.
Okay.
Willis Dady set that up, and they have set it up so that you would call them if there is a need, right? Okay. Yeah. So
That's great, yeah.
It's been pretty busy. They've stayed pretty busy. So
It's good
not
to hear
just
that you're
here
doing
in
that.
Marion, but all over the community.
Sure. We as a community have started looking at those issues, and it's
Right.
good to hear that you're providing that service. So that's really
Mhm.
great. Okay. Other questions? Thank you very much. It's good to see
Absolutely.
you
Thank you
again.
for letting me come in.
Okay, at this time, we have a public forum. This time is set aside for comments from the public on topics that are listed on the agenda, but not associated with a public hearing. So anything on the agenda at all that anyone would like to address the council on, this is the time to do that. If it is on the agenda but not part of a public hearing, because in the public hearings, there is a built-in public comment opportunity with each public hearing. So if there's anything on the agenda that is not a public hearing item that anyone would like to address the council on, please come forward. Okay, seeing there are none, we'll move forward through the agenda to the consent agenda.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as follows. There'd be items 1A through F1 and resolutions 27380 through 27386.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, which includes items A1 through F1 and resolutions 27380 through 27386. Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor, I will be voting in favor of the consent agenda. However, I would like to let it be known that under administrative, item 2B is an item that I must not vote on for business reasons. So I will abstain from that item.
Okay. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. And the motion is approved with a noted abstention by Councilman Draper on item 2B. Okay, for the next section, and we'll turn over the gavel to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Renee?
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Aboasley's abstention from voting and discussion as follows, and this includes items A1 through F1, resolution numbers 27387 through 27390.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Aboasley's abstention. This includes A1 through F2, resolutions 27387 through 27390. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. And relinquish the meeting back over to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. On to the regular agenda, administrative services.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of the Code of Ordinances relating to liquor licenses and wine and beer permits. This is a final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the final consideration of ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of the Code of Ordinances relating to liquor licenses and wine and beer permits. Any discussion? This will be the final vote on this. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-35, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-36, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances relating to minors, and this is the final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 18-36, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances relating to minors. This is also the final consideration. Any discussion? All those in favor of ordinance number 18-36, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 19-01, amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the Library Board of Trustees. This will be the initial consideration.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 19-01, amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the Library Board of Trustees. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of ordinance 19-01, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 27391, approving transfer of awarded hotel motel funds from Go Cedar Rapids to Prospect Meadows in the amount of $5,000.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27391, approving the transfer of hotel motel funds awarded to Go Cedar Rapids to Prospect Meadows in the amount of $5,000. So to clarify, these are hotel motel funds that had been awarded to Go Cedar Rapids to be used for a specific project in relation with the promotion of Prospect Meadows. And now the request is to redirect the $5,000 to go directly to Prospect Meadows for the same purpose. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of resolution 27391, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion has been approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to set a special work session for January 14th of 2019 at 5 p.m. at the Marion Public Library regarding final library space needs assessment. This will be a joint meeting with the Library Board at their regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to set a special work session for January 14, 2019 at 5 p.m. at the Marion Public Library regarding final library space needs assessment. This will be a joint meeting between the Library Board and the City Council at the Library Board's regularly scheduled meeting. We would entertain an amendment because it's been requested to move the meeting to City Hall from the library. So it's simply amending it to change the location to City Hall. Anyone willing to make that motion?
I'll do that. So I make a motion to amend this to read, the motion is to set a special work session for January 14th, 2019 at 5 p.m. at the Marion City Hall regarding final library space needs assessment.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion that's on the floor so that the location will be revised to Marion City Hall. So it's no longer Marion Public Library, but it would be Marion City Hall. Is there any discussion on that amendment, on the motion to amend? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor of amending the motion that's on the floor so that The location of the January 14, 2019 meeting would be Marion City Hall. Please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, so now we have the amended motion, which now reads, the motion to set a special work session for January 14, 2019 at 5 p.m. at the Marion City Hall regarding final library space needs assessment. Any discussion on the amended motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion has been approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding a stoplight at the intersection of 29th Avenue and Albernet Road. Eric George, 2395 Acacia Court.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding a stoplight at the intersection of 29th Avenue and Albernet Road. Is there any discussion on this? And we did have some discussion on Tuesday, but is there further discussion on this? And the recommendation of the TAC report was to leave things as is for the time being at that intersection. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding a request to increase the speed limit on 3rd Avenue, and this was brought by Timothy Gotzel, 1117 and a half 3rd Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding a request to increase the speed limit on 3rd Avenue. Discussion. And to remind everyone, the recommendation was to not increase the speed limit, but to leave it as is. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion has been approved.
Your Honor, I move to receive, file, discuss, and concur with TAC report regarding speeding on Winslow Road. This will be Mike and Kathy Carney at 1697 Bridge Creek Court.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding speeding on Winslow Road. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved. Mr. Brandt.
I make a motion to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding modifications to the speed limit in school zones on Albernet Road. Tom Dobbs, 6315 Highway 151.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive, file, discuss, and concur with the TAC report regarding modifications to the speed limit in school zones on Albernet Road. Discussion. And the recommendation is that the current signage we have is preferable. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to receive and file correspondence regarding amendment to future land use map and request to rezone properties south of Furno Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. This is Lucinda Taplin at 6320 East Casina Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive and file correspondence received regarding the amendment to the future land use map and request to rezone property south of Furno Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved. At this time, we have a public hearing regarding the property south of Furno Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. The public hearing is regarding the amendment to the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to single-family attached and multifamily residential, and a request to rezone from R2 medium density single family residential to planned development residential, PDR. The public hearing is now open, and do we have a presentation on this, please?
I'll give a brief one. I think Tom went into quite a bit of detail on at the work session. Property in question is highlighted in red. Highway 13 is running north-south there, Verna Road, east-west on the north side of the development. Then you have Casina kind of on the south side. There's two public hearings. I'm going to kind of combine them into one since folks may come up and talk at the first one about issues on the second item. First item is a comprehensive plan amendment. Currently, all this area is designated for single-family homes with the 2010 comp plan update. Since that time, we haven't seen a whole lot of development on the east side of 13. It went well for a little while. Unfortunately, 2008 happened, and then it's really pretty much come to a stop since 2008. They filled in a few lots here and there, but it's basically not developed east of 13. Developers come along now, looking at the area in red there, and just wanting to bring some new products to Marion, a mix of single-family homes, condos, and some multifamily. Some unique features to this. He's going to have some traditional single-family homes that we all know in Marion, garage out front, home behind it. That'll be in areas highlighted, not really highlighted in this area that he's also bought that's not part of the request, and along the border of a few areas of the single-family homes. So you'll have traditional Marion homes, I guess, in that area. And then as he goes into the development, he wants to transition to first alley-loaded homes. So the homes will front the road. The garage door will be placed in the back. That's the areas in the orange. And then the yellow is the single-family homes, the traditional homes that we're all used to in Marion. The orange area will be single-family homes with the rear-facing garage, so access via a public alley in those areas. The purple will be the same, but they'll be duplexes, again with the garages in the alley. The blue will be a townhome arrangement. Again, the garage is off of public access in the back, with really the front doors facing the open space down in here or facing the roadway. Again, the garage doors getting hidden. And then the last two are the green areas. These are duplexes. Again, front door or garage is loaded off the public street, so back to a little more traditional Marion condo. And then the red area in the northeast corner of the site will be those three-story apartments that have been constructed on Bison Court right off Highway 13. They'll be very similar to that. Again, I've said that this site's kind of slowed down some, but developers are again bringing some new products we haven't seen in Marion. Staff feels there's a pretty good opportunity. This is going to do very, very well. The city has, along with the water department, has 6 acres to the east for a park and water tower. The school's got, I believe, 15 acres over there for another elementary. That probably wasn't needed until this development comes along, and that unfortunately may drive that up as well. So just tonight, you're going to have the comprehensive plan and the rezoning to go in from that R2 single family to the planned development residential that will allow the zoning. Following the zoning here in about a month now, 2 or 4 weeks away, we'll bring the preliminary site development plan that will show a little more detail of what this will look like, and that'll get approved separate. Some concerns and items that came up, and they may come up tonight, from the Planning and Zoning Commission, traffic. This is Prairie Ridge, running all the way to Highway 13. Right now, it's kind of the only road, along with Casina, down on the south side that really go toward the highway. So currently, Prairie Ridge gets quite a bit of activity at those peak times of the day, and then Casina, to a lesser degree, gets some of that as well. Obviously, with this development, you're going to see cars going that way to a tough intersection today. I mean, it's the highway speeds are picking up quite a bit there, and so you've got to get across pretty good and look down the road a ways. But again, there's always that growing pain, I guess. Currently, there's really limited ways into this development. When it's fully developed, we'll have Furno Road as an access prairie trail, then obviously everything will hook into Casina, and folks will be able to use Casina as well. So really, instead of just one entrance, you're getting 3, ultimately with full build-out. There will be traffic on Prairie Ridge early phases. But again, as it develops, that'll hopefully disperse through the neighborhood, and folks will be able to get to Furno Road, which will probably be a much better intersection to use in the future. Again, as development occurs along the highway, that's going to generate conversations with the DOT eventually as well about what do we do on speeds. It seems like it comes up every few years. And as we see commercial development to the south, it'll be a discussion we have to have again in the future. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of it with the condition that he remove the condos in this area, and he has done that. He's put single-family homes into that area, so he's addressed those comments from the commission. I went kind of fast there. I can answer any questions or turn it over to the developer.
Okay, so is this...
There's 2 public hearings, though. Or there's 1 public hearing, but there's 2 action items on the public hearing.
Yeah. But the questions for Dave, I'm asking city manager, we ask our questions when we're actually talking about the resolutions?
Correct.
Right. So at this time, we'll move forward with the public hearing.
Okay.
Is there anyone here to address the council in favor of this measure? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having us.
Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Please state your name and address, and if you can fill out the yellow card for us
Yep.
afterwards. Thank you.
Chad Pelly with Rookwood Estates, LLC, address 346 Woodland Drive, Southeast. Thanks for having me. Dave did a pretty good job paraphrasing where we're at right now. I think there's a couple things I'd like to add. At Planning Commission, a lot of the concerns with traffic and runoff and your usual suspects, I'll call them, were raised, and I think we've done a really good job of addressing those. I think, it's hard to see the details of plan at this scale, but we've got a fairly large recreational detention basin that'll serve the entire development except for the very northerly pieces. Throughout the development, we've also added some rain gardens and some infiltration areas. In addition to that, the bulk of the stormwater management will be a regional basin, though. We're in the process right now, and we're so close, except for the burden of REC and Alliant Energy sharing this service area, to approach and pursue a net zero with solar on every home in this development. REC doesn't really participate on that buyback of that excess energy or give credit like Alliant does. So hopefully we can get the Alliant service area here or REC to start participating, and we can probably make that happen for the entire development with the current incentives and the prices that solar are at right now for each and every home out here. So that's kind of a cool thing that we hadn't presented at Planning Commission, really. I don't know if Dave mentioned, we also have the remaining Dostal property to the east under contract if things go well here. Continue a master plan of something very comparable and complementary. We're going to work with the city again on that site here soon. Once we know how this one's going to be received, if approved. At this time, I guess I will open it up if there's any questions specifically for me, and I'd like the opportunity maybe after the public has spoke to come back and address if there's any other questions that I may have to answer. So at this time, if there's anything, let me know.
What's the likelihood that the solar would be
solar?
Part of this?
Right now, basically the way it sits with single-family homes and such, there's 2 ways they can do it. They can either purchase it outright. They can use it as a tax credit. It's actually 45% tax credit federal, and states half of that. So you knock these things down to the cost for your average consumer around $6 to $7 grand right out the gate, and it's paid for in 3 to 4 years with the offset in consumption. The problem is just getting buyers. We're trying to do affordable homes, truly what I consider affordable homes, and you're tacking, a pretty hefty 5% onto or 3% onto these homes, and that's tough to swallow. That hurdle with REC we'll know soon. If we're going to be able to make it work, whether it's with Alliance serving the whole site or REC. See, REC's a local co-op. Alliance mandated and required to do those programs, whereas REC's not. So without that, it's tough to do what they, during the excess production, Alliant will give the credit. So the folks, it averages out. There's good days, there's bad days, there's dark night. It just doesn't work with REC. The payback's too far out still on that investment. So we're hopeful.
So it's either all or none?
No.
Oh.
I'd just like it to be all. It'd be really bad to come in. The boundaries are weird for what those two serve, and you guys know, you're in Marion, the boundaries jog around old agreements. I think we'll make it work. I think it'd be really tough for somebody to say at any level, hey, we don't want to see these homes participate in a program.
So, Fernell Road, the access to Fernell Road is not open, won't be open initially?
No. And I don't have a real good time frame for that. Obviously, that's a big relief for the neighborhood, but I do think, you got, I think we said eight dead ends here that are going to be, with what we're planning to do everything south of this is Prairie Ridge that goes out to 13, the main entrance, and we're planning to do everything south of there infrastructure-wise with our first phase. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. That's a lot to bite off, but I think for traffic flow and from hearing some of the neighborhood concerns and just having a clean start there once we get building on homes on a site like this.
You said that that detention basin is going to be, or it's a detention or retention? It's going to be green space.
It'll be a wet basin that also serves as the water quality and for.
Oh, it will be wet?
Yeah, it'll be wet.
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
amenity, and we've got amenities throughout.
So it'll be like a pond.
Yeah, it'll be. Yep.
Okay. Because we were under the understanding it was going to be dry. Okay.
Not this one, not the large one. The large one's pretty big. It'll be wet. There'll be a dog park adjacent to it. We'll put some hardscape stuff that can be used by the neighborhood, and actually not just limited to the neighborhood, obviously. And then a park and a few other things throughout the development.
Okay. Any other questions up here for Mr. Pelly? Yes, sir.
I've got two. I appreciate you talking about how you're going to phase that in, because I think that's important to understand. How far from the red side on Fernell Road is the land that Linmar owns?
Immediately adjacent to the east.
Oh, that's just right to the east of this?
Yep.
On the north or south side?
South side, right. So
it's right next to
right
this, right next to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Second question is, and I think you talked about this at your P&Z meeting that I was at, but you could clarify the answer for everybody up here. And so you have a lot of condos in this project, and a lot of times the condos are managed by a condo association.
Yep.
So can you review how all of these condos are going to be managed?
So this will all be owner-occupied, transferred by deed, zero lot lines. The red area is a product similar to what we're doing on Bison Court. However, the amount of folks that want to buy those units that we lease over there has been so large that we feel, especially with the school, that these will be owner-occupied and condoed. We just can't zero lot line those. So the only condo association will be here. The entire development will be part of a homeowners association that will be managed professionally, not by turned over. Well, of course, eventually it could be when all 300 homes are built in this area, could be turned over to the actual association. But we found the best way to do it is through a professional management company. All of our developments right now that we have are done that way. That's the only way to keep it active, viable, and on the up and up. As you know, Mayor, that those things become defunct, and then, as you know, things like wet detention basins become nuisances, and things stop being maintained. That won't be the intent here. Everybody will be part of that, including the condos. So the entire development, except for those red areas, will be traditional, transferred by a deed, not condoed.
Other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to address the council in favor of this measure? Yes. Please come forward, state your name and address. And if you haven't filled out the yellow card, do so
Okay.
address. Thank you.
My name is Lynn Emmerich. My address is 1826 Furnow Road. I'm one of the adjoining property owners. I'm not opposed to the plan. It's been revised, so I'm okay with the plan. I have a question on the verbiage on how F2 and F3 are written. The current zoning is for single family. They want to change it from single family detached to single family attached. And I believe it should be to single family attached and detached, because you have both properties on this plan.
We'll have the planning department address that.
Yeah, single-family detached only allows traditional homes, single-family homes that we're all used to. Single-family attached, in those general land use areas, they allow for condominiums, and they also allow for single-family homes to be built as well through the zoning, which is the comp plan's the map, and the zoning's the tool. And the tool allows both types of units to be built. Now, when we follow up here in a month with the preliminary site development plan, that will show the lots that will have single family, the lots that will have townhomes, the lots that will have condos. When that gets adopted, that gets, I don't want to say set in stone, but it's the plan that gets adopted. And it does not change unless it goes back through this process again where the public gets notified. So we'll know exactly where the single families are, exactly where the condos are. And if he wants to change it after it's approved, you get another postcard and we go back through this process again.
That goes through another approval.
Yes.
But
So the items that are going to happen in a month is the tool that tells you what's going to be exactly where.
So what he's saying is the category that they're requesting to be rezoned to includes the various types.
I understand that. I just read it that it's changing to single family attached, not freestanding.
But what he's saying is that single family attached, by definition in our code, allows single family detached also.
I didn't know that from reading it. That was my concern.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So we've
Thank you.
answered the question?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else to address the council in favor of this measure? Okay. Anyone here to address the council in opposition? Please come forward. If you want to address the council in opposition of this measure, please come forward. Okay. Seeing that there's none, we will close the public hearing at this time. I would like to ask, I know we have the one receive and file correspondence. Has there been any other correspondence or comments received?
No, this
besides
is all
what we've had to this evening?
the one I'm aware of.
Okay. So we'll let that be noted also, please. Okay, moving on to the resolution. Ms. Atkins.
Sorry. I make a motion, resolution number 27392, approving amendment to the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to single-family attached and multifamily residential for property south of Furnow Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27392, approving an amendment to the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to single-family attached and multifamily residential for property south of Furnow Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. Discussion. I would like to ask our city manager I know we have a housing needs assessment, and how does this advance the goals of that assessment, where the shortages were noted, or, our needs for housing, diversity in this community, so availability of different types of housing?
Yeah, the housing needs assessment identified several different distinct housing types that were needed in Marion. One of the primary ones, and the largest one in sheer number, was higher, what I would classify as kind of top of the market rental units. That category was identified at almost 500 units as a single category, but it also had an impact on the affordable end of the spectrum, because what they concluded is that because we didn't have an adequate supply at that end, that people who could afford those units were moving down market. So in essence, everybody who could afford housing at this tier, because it wasn't available, moved down one. That pushed the people that could afford that tier down one, which ultimately ended up pushing the people that could only manage the most affordable housing out of the community. So that was a distinct one that was identified. The units being built on Bison Court to the south of this are an example of the type of units that we're seeing coming in to address that. The housing needs assessment in broad strokes, however, also notes that Marion is very, very, very good at building single-family homes, but in the area of more multifamily, your duplexes, fourplexes, and diversification, frankly, of the style of condos that we have available was an obstacle for us, because you tended to see the same ones being built throughout the community over and over and over again. So it had recommendations for diversification of our housing stock. Affordability of the housing stock was becoming an issue. So when we look at these, we do evaluate them for consistency with that housing needs assessment, and this one hits it on potentially the rental side and on the owner-occupied side.
Thank you for that. Any questions or discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Grant.
You mentioned the parcel to the southwest that was just, I guess, field right now. You said the same developer control that?
Yeah,
was that going to be single family?
The developers purchased that, but that'll remain single family, traditional single family.
Traditional single family. That's the plan.
It's not part of the zoning, but it'll be part of the it was part of the plat, but it doesn't change what's basically been approved prior.
This doesn't.
Correct.
Right.
That already has an approved preliminary plat that just extends those 2 or 3 streets to the east, and
it does have a preliminary plat already.
Yeah, it already has a preliminary plat approved.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he's just gonna move that forward.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions or discussion? What's attractive for me about this is the diversity of the types of housing stock. Some of it we don't have in the community. Some of it we have very little of. And I think we have to continue looking at providing affordable housing and a variety of types of housing to meet the needs and demands of all the people who are moving here, who may not all have the same qualifications of where they want to live or what type of housing they want or need. And so I like the diversity that it offers. I appreciate that the developer has responded to the neighborhood to the west, to their concerns by changing some of the lots to single-family homes to create an additional buffer. I like the creativity of it and the green space that's offered. I think it's going to be a nice addition personally. Yes, sir.
I think I keep looking at the map and the development, and the one thing that hits me is I know that Prairie Ridge is going to have a tremendous amount of additional traffic, and at the P&Z meeting, that's where the majority of the comments were. But I would certainly encourage the developer, I don't think I'll mandate it, but I certainly encourage the developer as soon as possible to at least continue that north-south road to connect to Fernau Road in some manner. And even if Fernau Road is unimproved, it'll still allow a certain amount of traffic to get up north on that and take some of it off of Prairie Ridge. So I don't know, because you're going to be developing, as soon as you hit that site, that'll probably be one of your key roads up there. But I see that as really one of the key aspects. And eventually it'll be a discussion at a city level, what we do with Furnow Road and how soon we improve that. But that'll come soon enough. But I do see that as a key future item as soon as that can be developed and take some of the pressure off of the traffic on Prairie Ridge.
Other discussion? Yes, Mr.
Real
Brandt.
quick too, and I brought this up Tuesday, but I would recommend that sooner than later, we contact the DOT to try and get the speeds on the highway lowered again with more development out here, so.
Yeah, Councilman, as my objection was on Tuesday, I talked about fire safety and ambulances and, so I agree with you. As soon as we can get that north-south, Furnow could be used for a fire truck if it had to be.
Right. So I guess we could ask the police chief, I'm sorry, the fire chief, are there any concerns with the way it's being proposed now with the connection of Furnow coming later?
No, there
from your
are no
perspective?
concerns. In the fire code, it states when there's so many residences, there has to be 2 access points, meaning 2 major streets to reach all the residents and to have an evacuation route, and this meets that.
Okay, so you've reviewed it and
Yes, we have.
you're okay with it. All right. Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Ms. Gadela.
I can't, I would just echo what you and Steve said. I think this is welcome in the community. We totally need this, and I just want to commend the developer and his team because they've been working for a while on this and really listening to the surrounding neighborhood. They've had meetings, and this plan is iterated several times to take that into account. So I really appreciate it, and I hope that they find something on the west side of town and bring some more of this throughout the community as well, because I think people are really going to like what they see.
Thank you.
Yes, and uptown.
There's no room uptown to do something like that.
Yeah, we did talk on Tuesday that, the row housing is attractive. I think it could be in other areas of town too, so. Excuse me. Other discussion? Okay. If we're ready to vote on resolution number 27392. All those in favor of approving resolution number 27392, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Mr. Jensen.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 19-02, approving a rezoning from R2, medium-density, single-family residential, to PDR, Planned Development Residential, for property south of Furnow Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. Brought to you by Curtis J. Cope Family Trust and Cope Agricultural Investments, LLC. This is the initial consideration.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 19-02, approving a rezoning from R2, medium-density single-family residential, to Planned Development Residential, PDR, for property south of Furnow Road and east of Crestwood Lane and Burns Drive. Discussion. So the first vote was to change the comprehensive plan so that it would accommodate this rezoning, and then now we're voting on the zoning, on rezoning the property. Any discussion on ordinance number 19-02?
Your Honor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, last minute here. Mike, can you, and I'm sorry, I'm seeing these areas whited out on our sheets here. So these 2 residential lots that sit to the north side of that, can you tell me what I'm sorry, maybe it's not your, Mike, what's the zoning on that?
Those are actually those 2 lots are actually in the count. Those are still county lots. The large lots on the northwest side of the page there.
No, this would be on the northwest side of that condominium development. It looks like they're, if I'm looking at this right, no, I apologize, that's correct, yes.
Okay. Those 2 lots are still out in the county.
Okay, those are county.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it jogs around those 2 homes and it picks back up for this development and then goes east to pick up the school site.
Okay, thank you.
Austin's old property.
Thank you. I was concerned that we were landlocking zone territories again, so thanks.
Okay, all right. Any other discussions or question on ordinance number 19-02? Okay, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 19-02, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion's approved. Mr. Sternad.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27393, approving the Emerson School First Edition Final Plat and Memorandum of Agreement located at 1400 10th Avenue in Marion, Iowa. This will be Marion Independent School District.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27393, approving the Emerson School First Edition Final Plat and Memorandum of Agreement located at 1400 10th Avenue, Marion, Iowa. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor of resolution number 27393, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion's approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27394, approving a Jacob First Edition to Lynn County Final Plat and Memorandum of Agreement located at 2700 and 2706 East Robbins Road. Bernita Jacobs.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27394, approving Jacob First Edition to Lynn County Final Plat and the Memorandum of Agreement. This is for property at 2700 and 2706 East Robbins Road. Discussion. All those in favor of approving resolution number 27394, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no, and the motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27395, approving a request to vacate sanitary sewer easement between lots 16 and 17 of the Coves at English Glen First Edition.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27395, approving the request to vacate the sanitary sewer easement between lots 16 and 17 of the Coves at English Glen First Edition. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27396, approving form of contract related to the sale of city-owned property located at 2254 and 2274 Fifth Avenue in the amount of $152,454. Cedar Venture LLC.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27396, approving the form of contract related to the sale of city-owned property located at 2254 and 2274 Fifth Avenue in the amount of $152,454. Discussion. And just for information, this is for a proposed residential project. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27397, approving a memorandum of understanding with TGW Iowa Apartment Partners, LP.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27397, approving a memorandum of understanding with TWG Iowa Apartment Partners, LP. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor of resolution 27397, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion is approved. For the next item, I will turn over the gavel to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Brandt.
Yes, make a motion to receive, file, and discuss draft memorandum of agreement regarding operations with Young Men's Christian Association of Cedar Rapids Metropolitan Area, the new regional YMCA in Marion.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to receive and file and discuss a draft memorandum of agreement regarding operations with Young Men's Christian Association of the Cedar Rapids Metropolitan Area, the new regional YMCA in Marion. Lon, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
Just to note that the memorandum of agreement, one of the items that the council had asked for was to have many of the things that the YMCA had been iterating about community benefit from participation in the program provided in writing so that you could see it and have a chance to review it and go through it. These are the items that have been included so far that were discussed with council. I wanted to see, did council have any other items that you wanted to see included? This is the first time I know you've really had a chance to see it. Mike and his staff have had a chance to review it and work back and forth with the YMCA. I had anticipated that this would come back to the council at the next meeting for more full discussion, but since it's new, wanted to see if there are any first impressions or anything that you wanted to talk about, and see if anybody, provide an opportunity that if anyone from the Y was here and you wanted to ask questions, you'd be able to do that, hence the discuss.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Question. So will there be a more formal presentation on it at the next meeting before the vote? Is that?
That would be the plan,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, this is simply receive and file.
Thanks.
Yeah, I object a little bit to the timing of this. We didn't have an opportunity to discuss this at all on Tuesday, and it's a little confusing to me at my age sometimes that, to understand what we have here, but because it is receive and file, I assume that we'll get all the information we need at some future date.
Okay. Steve?
Just to let everybody know, I abstained on the vote about the Y financing at the December 20th meeting because I thought I had a conflict. After I went home that night, I thought a lot more about my roles that on the Y steering and building committees that I'm serving as a volunteer. So the next day I asked for a legal opinion. I provided the descriptions of the committee's responsibilities to our city attorney. I am a volunteer on those committees, and neither one of those committees has any decision-making authority. That is done by the board of directors. So based upon that opinion, that has been reviewed. I have a legal opinion that there is not any conflict. I believe this project is beneficial to the citizens of Marion and will be an asset to our community. I am a 40-year member of the Y, a financial contributor to this campaign, and for those reasons, I would be in favor of this project regardless of my involvement on those Y committees. So I now feel there is not any conflict that prevents me from voting on agenda items relating to the Y.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Ryan?
No, sir.
No? Okay, thank you.
The matter was thoroughly researched by Kara, and we rendered our opinion to Councilmember Jensen. So.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any last final comments on this before we put it to a vote? No? Okay. I would like to cast my opinion on this. I, as too, am in favor of the YMCA. The hang-up I have on this is the process of which and where we are currently at right now with the initial request of the $1.5 million and the city's position into moving forward up those proceeds to accelerate that, and at the current still asking of $800,000. So I still stand firm with my objection of the $800,000 ask, and I will continue to have further discussions with this, and at this particular point I'm not excited to see the $7.3 million ask in this MOU. Whatever that final outcome is for the proceeds of that, I think should be either, again, continue to be fine-tuned or actually removed from this memorandum of agreement if it should happen to hold this project up going forward. So with the announcement of Mr. Jensen's topic there, I think it'll be continue to be a measured issue moving forward. So once again, I'll ask, is there any other further questions or comments that you'd like to make before we place this to a vote? If not, all those in favor of the motion to receive and file and discuss the draft and memorandum of under agreement, all say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And please note that I've abstained from the vote. Yep.
And please note that the meeting is now being relinquished back over to the Marion. Thank you.
Okay, we have one item under the city manager's office.
Now, I will just do an introduction here. As the council knows, one of the things that we want to do is to go into more detail about several of the projects in the capital improvement program, primarily the ones that are either long-term, multiple-year projects or ones that are expensive and are significant drivers for the costs that are contemplated in the CIP. And so the ones that we intend to cover tonight are the Central Corridor project and the Tower Terrace Road project. I will note that Mike is graciously being our guinea pig for our beta test of the format on how these would be presented. Amal has put together some documents including a sample timeline, a project sheet that would contain a lot of the details. So we've given some of those to council for you to look at and give us feedback on. We'll continue to refine those going forward. And with that, we'll let Mike be, I guess, our hamster in the cage for tonight.
Just so you guys are aware, the presentations, originally these were a couple hours each, so I have tried to condense them as much as possible.
Thank you.
So this is very high level, but if there's specific questions, please stop me and we can talk about those. Some of this is background information just for those that are not aware of it, to get everybody up on the same speed. We probably could have done just Central Corridor this time on Tower Terrace the next, but we're going to take on them both. We do have the new templates that Amal put together. Some of them, like the sheet that you have that I handed out, that's kind of looking forward. If that's something that you guys like, then we can use that. If there's things you want tweaked about it, I didn't do it for all the projects. Darren threw this one together quick. You'll also see some slides in here where I don't have any values in it, but maybe you like the timeline and how it looks. So we're looking for some feedback too, so that these presentations can kind of be more of the same, and so that if we give a presentation on the public service facility, it has the same layout, so you're getting the same type of information instead of hearing it from different angles. So we'll go ahead and get started on Central Corridor. So in your CIP, it actually includes 6 projects individually within the CIP. The first 2 projects we're not going to talk about because the planning department's actually running those. The first one is land acquisition, and the second one is the road design update. So what we're going to talk about is the 4 and kind of the background information on those. So those of you that have not been around, the background, the top left picture is 7th Avenue west of Country Kitchen. The top right one is 10th Street south of 6th. The bottom left is 7th Avenue, how it is still today. And then the bottom right is in front of Phil High's Diamond Shop, which obviously has been improved, and there's parking there now. So you can kind of see what we were talking about back when we started this program. So we've talked before about mission and vision statements. The Central Corridor project actually had its own vision statement back in the day. So it was to revitalize the corridor as a regional hub for businesses, urban living, and entertainment, cementing Marion as an independent and self-sustaining regional destination. So this is our major east-west corridor, being Business 151, and it's the front door into the community, and it's our commercial backbone. So again, along this, 62% of the parcels along the Central Corridor are valued at $100,000 or less. So this is our primary road, and we have properties that are only valued at $100,000. 53% of traffic accidents are along this 1-mile stretch of 7th Avenue, and we have 150 miles of street. Some of these intersections are stop control for north-south traffic, where east-west would be free-flowing. Some of them were actually traffic signals, such as 7th and 7th, that we actually got money for to take the signals out and put a roundabout in. So back in the fall of 2002 is actually when this study began. We started with brownfield grants to clean up the old railroad right-of-way. August 2004 was our phase 1, where we did our environmental safety stuff. November 2009, we had a Marion Central Corridor Master Plan that was adopted. September of 2011, our Uptown Streetscape Plan was adopted. In October 2011 was our West End Corridor Plan. So you can see there's quite a few plans that all tie back into this program. So our brownfield, just to kind of give you a big picture of what they actually found out there. So all the red dots were areas of concern. And so there was actually 281 properties identified, and 14 had to actually have stuff done where we actually would clean the material out and take it to a special facility and then backfill with sand to get those contaminants out. Unfortunately, back in the day, it was easier. If you didn't want something, you would just bury it. And so we had to do that cleanup. So then we started looking at the actual study area. So we were looking at the two east and west ends. We had this old railroad corridor, and we have 7th Avenue at the time that it was already 4 lanes. You can't widen it anymore without taking down businesses, so what do? There was a series of multiple options that were put on the table, and finally this was the final design. So roundabouts at each end with an additional one at 15th to define the uptown footprint, putting co-priority on 7th and 6th Avenues with a 3-lane cross-section, adding bicycle and pedestrian elements, and varying intensity of plantings and infrastructure along the plan. So our first project was actually 6th Avenue, 8th to 13th Street, done in 2012. This was considered what was phase 1. This was done for $2,661,054, and so this would be in front of the library, City Hall, and then one farther block to the west. Next project that we did, which I'm sure the fire department was very glad we did, was actually taking out the old viaduct. Before that, they couldn't get the fire engines through there because the height on that was not good enough. So it was actually a fairly quick project in 2012 that was being done simultaneously with the other project. It came down fairly easy, other than the foundations of the old viaduct were pretty big, and they were jackhammering on that quite a while to get those foundations out. And so you can basically see the top right picture is what it looked like with the 11-foot 6-inch clearance. The middle picture is them taking it apart, and then what it looked like when we were done at the bottom. Next, we had actually a project on 7th Avenue between 12th and 14th Street in 2014. And what we did here is that actually added additional parking in front of Walgreens and the Phillips Diamond Shop. This was a cost of $200,433, and this was a joint project with the Phillips Diamond Shop and Walgreens to get that done. Our next project was our 10th Street reconstruction project. This was done in 2015 between 5th and 6th Avenue. This was $341,000. We only did one block and did not extend it another block to the north, and a lot of people wonder why, and that's because we didn't know what the elevation of 7th Avenue was going to be, so we didn't want to build the street to an elevation and then have to tear the street back out when we actually get that profile figured out. Next, we did the 7th and 7th roundabout. We actually received $1 million in ICAP funding for that project. The total project cost was $3 million and change on that, minus the $1 million, so it was about $2 million to build. There was some acquisitions and some design costs that are additional to that, but that's what the actual construction cost for that project was. The 7th Avenue and 26th Street roundabout was also done in 2016. It was a little frustrating that year doing 2 roundabouts on your main east-west thoroughfare during the same year. A few gray hairs that year. This was done 2 phases. The first phase was to get utilities to 7th Avenue, such as the storm sewer and sanitary sewer. That was $424,651. And then stage 2 was actually building the roundabout and then connecting it to 31st and connecting it back into 7th. With future phases, we'll get that southwest quadrant tied in. So this was done for a little under $2 million for one portion of it and $424 for the other. Now we kind of have this gap in between. So right outside here at City Hall and that roundabout is the section that we have not completed now. We do have 15th Street north-south done, but there's still a gap between 15th and City Hall and the section to the east. So this is, now we're getting kind of the format of what the PowerPoint presentation is going to start looking like. So the project team here is the city engineer and the assistant city engineer. The designers for this section were Hall & Hall engineers. The construction administrator is the assistant city engineer. The construction inspector is Dan Schneider, and this is a public-private partnership with Genesis Equities. So this is one of them where I didn't have time to put all the details and the milestones on it, just because there's so many projects that if we go from 2002 to 2016, you wouldn't be able to read it because it'd be so small. But this is something that as we do projects, we want to put this in front of you so you can see these are the milestones we're going to hit. This is where we're at. These are potential roadblocks so that you guys can see that. It's something you can put on the website. It's something that can be updated as we're going through the project. So one project that is currently underway is 6th Avenue, 13th to 19th Street, which is considered Phase 3. The plans were approved on 7/21/17. The developer agreement was approved on 9/7/17. The contract is for a little over $2 million, and to date we've paid just under $1 million, or 43% of that contract. And so that's basically the portion that's done is the roundabout and then north-south. It doesn't connect yet east-west. Proposed timeline, this is obviously subject to weather and utility delays, but this is what they're proposing to do to finish that section. So starting in April, assuming we don't have a late spring, they would get the west end done by the end of July. Again, weather can play a role in construction projects. And then getting the east built to 19th Street, they're planning on having done by the end of August. Another project that we have under the works then is 6th Avenue, then from 19th to 26th, which is considered Phase 4. The plans were approved on 10/25/18. Acquisitions are still ongoing. There's a few that you'll see that will come before you that we have not acquired all of the right-of-way for yet. The developer agreement is also not before us yet because currently they're out getting quotes to find out what it's going to cost to build that section. And then eventually the contract will come back to the council once those numbers are put together to approve. They do know that they are going to have working days on this one, so that it's not like the one prior that that we don't have any carrots or sticks on it. So this way we know when it's going to get done. And paid to date, we actually have not paid any amount of money to this because there's no contract yet for this. So again, milestones and timeline, assuming they have all the acquisitions done and they start in April, they can actually do both projects simultaneously, the previous project and this project, and they, assuming everything goes per plan, would have it done by the time the snow flies. But again, if we have the delay on acquisitions or if we have a rainy season, that's going to delay things. Another project that we have underway for Central Corridor is the 7th Avenue, and that's from 7th Street to 27th Street, and that's the actual design of it to figure out what our cross-section is going to be. So we received a motion directing engineering services on 2/22/18. You guys approved a contract with Anderson Bogert for $261,133 on 6/21/18. Paid to date is $76,004.85. Currently, we're still working through concepts with the developer, and we have a multi-department committee. So we have like the Parks Department, Fire, Police, City Manager's Office, all working together to make sure we get that cross-section, especially in the uptown, of what we need. Once we get that narrowed down a little bit more, we'll actually get the businesses involved and have public input meetings. All throughout this process, we've had open houses, especially when we were building the roundabouts. We had open houses here where we gave presentations. We have project website pages. We have educational materials of how to drive a roundabout that we've distributed. We had project posters on the 7th and 7th. We had them in all 4 quadrants so that people could go in there. And then we had updates that we sent out that they could add to their poster for when customers were in there. We used the Marion Messenger and the Farmers Market. We actually have a large print-off of 7th and 7th, and we would lay it on a table you could take model cars and actually drive and get the kids over there, and that brought the parents over, and Then it was a little education session on how to drive a roundabout. And then continuing to move forward, we have a specific Central Corridor webpage on the city webpage. If you click on projects, there's an email distribution list for those that are specifically interested in Central Corridor that they will get they can sign up to be on that list to get those updates. We also have our weekly engineering updates. And then again, we'll have specific open houses, especially moving forward, like on 7th Avenue or any other key projects that we need to have those specific messages. So I just went over several years very quickly. Was there any questions on that?
Questions? Yes, sir.
You've answered one of the key questions, because one of the things, anytime I'm talking about the roundabouts on 7th Avenue, the first comment you always have to talk about is the roundabout at 27th Avenue or at 27th Street will make more sense once it connects to 6th Avenue.
Yep.
And that's been the question mark, is when is that going to happen? So I think now we can finally at least talk about or addressing that. One other suggestion I would make, if this could be put onto like a large board, because when we're at the Marion Library every Saturday morning, if we had one of those large boards and people talk about the Central Corridor project, that would allow us to talk about it in a little more detail. So
you're thinking just the overall?
Yeah, kind of like one of the...
Like if I put that on a board for you? That shows the whole scope of the project?
Yeah, something like that. Then we could talk about the different phases.
Yep.
And where things are at, and because obviously there's going to be more discussion not only about 6th Avenue but eventually about 7th Avenue. So sometimes people have a difficult time kind of seeing how it's all going to get connected, and why all of that's all been published in the past. That's been quite a while ago. I think people lose.
And most of it's
sight
still on the
it.
website too.
Right, I understand.
Yep. But yeah, if you guys want to meet with me later, we can figure out what exactly you guys want, and we can get on a board for you.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
Ready for Tower Terrace? All right, Tower Terrace. So those of you that don't know, Tower Terrace started back in the 60s. They actually did some right-of-way dedication in Lynn County, in a county subdivision. So this project goes back quite a ways. For the CIP, though, it only really touches 2 projects, but one of them is kind of big. The 18007 is Tower Terraces 5, 6, and acquisition, so that's quite a big scope. And then phase 9 is a future phase as well. But again, we'll kind of go through the same kind of format, so you'll see some background, you'll see where we're at on some of the projects, and that's where one of the project sheets is one of the current projects that we're doing. So again, we have the project advisory group, and this is for the master Tower Terrace plan. So the city of Marion isn't the only stakeholder in this project, because we're building it all the way from Marion's east border on 13th, is where Highway 13, all the way to 380. Next council meeting, at the same time that we're having council during the work session, the DOT is having a public open house on 380 and the intersection of Tower Terrace and that divergent diamond that we've talked about. So there's a lot of different people that are involved with this project, so there's a lot of stakeholders. Again, this is a big project, so we have a vision statement and goals for this specific project. I won't read them all to you. Recently, though, one of the things that we are going to change is what the cross-section looks like. So the top one is kind of what we're building today with a few modifications. So right now there's a bike lane and 1 through lane in each direction. And then in Marion, we have 2 8-foot wide trails on each side. Moving forward, it's actually going to go to 2 10-foot trails on both sides. In the future, when traffic demand requires it, the bike lane will actually go away, and it'll become just 2 lanes of traffic, and those 2 10-foot trails will stay on the outside. Originally, the plan was to have 2 lanes of traffic and the bike lane, but at that point, if you're a bicyclist that's driving with 2 other lanes of traffic, it was felt that you probably have enough experience that you could just take the lane if you want to drive in the road, or you could just take the trail instead. And so this is something that will still come to you guys for approval, but this is where we're headed, and that was the presentation I gave a couple months ago regarding the modifications that we're making to the master plan. So again, the big plan going all the way from 380 to 13, and you know, roundabouts have always been a hot topic, but you can see all the stars. Those are potential roundabout locations as we move forward, and you can see Cedar Rapids and other municipalities are seeing the benefits of the roundabouts as well. This is the proposed cost, and this is just to get it to 2-lane. So you can still, between all the municipalities, we still have $94 million to spend to get it in there. And then these are actually prioritized based on how they feel it's actually going to get built. So you can see number 1 is out there by 380 and building that intersection, and then 2, 3, and 4 are connecting that divergent diamond intersection to the east to Robbins Road, and then continuing with 5 just because there's a railroad crossing and a creek that we have to cross. You can see in Marion, a lot of the areas, they're actually not showing that we have to do a lot because we've actually made the most progress at the city. 12 is our big one. That's our bridge that we need to build between New Winslow and Old Winslow. And then 13 and 14 will be more developer-driven as we get that far out. This is the actual priority then of how they feel it's going to get built. So 1, 2, and 3 are actually already funded through the CMPO, the Corridor Metropolitan Planning Organization, and those are swap funds. And so we've talked about that's going to have a letting in November, and we'll get into that project specifically. The projects with the 4.1, 4.2 are the divergent diamond intersections, and then 6, so you can see they actually prioritize our bridge as 6th getting in there, and again, that's a $12 million project. So looking at Tower Terrace and the history on that, one of our first projects was 10th Street intersection, which we did in 2011. One that doesn't actually count as a Tower Terrace project when we do this was actually the roundabout at Tower Terrace and 35th, just because that was done as a stimulus project. It technically did build a section of it, but it was only the intersection, but that was the first one. That was built with stimulus funds. So this one had a cost of just under $600,000. It was designed by Ament Engineering, and you'll see that just about every consultant in this area has done some portion of Tower Terrace. The next phase that we did was 3rd to 10th Street, which was phase 2. This was done in 2011. The project cost was $765,000 and change. We actually got a RISE grant as a part of that. That paid $364,000 of that, and Brain Engineering actually did that design. The next one was Albernet Road to 3rd Street. That had a project cost of almost $1.4 million, and this actually built the roundabout where it ends on the west end, and we had to build a temporary road to have that connection while we were building that roundabout. And then the Parks Department actually went out and did the plantings in that roundabout instead of doing the corn henge like we did at Tower Terrace and 35th. Next, we started doing public-private partnerships. This one was with Morris Wood from Lennon to 35th. This was phase 4. This was done in 2013. Project cost was a little over $1 million, and this was designed by Schnur Bonifazi. Next, we did Tower Terrace 10th to Indian Creek. So this went to basically the new Winslow Road, where our bridge abutment would start on that side. This had a cost of $1.6 million, designed by YTT, and this basically was between the Linn-Mar campuses. So now we're getting into phases that we haven't actually constructed or are under construction. We have the Tower Terrace east of 35th, which is phase 9. We've hired Anderson Bogert to do the design. The north side will be a public-private partnership with Abode, and the south side will be a public-private partnership with Morris, and the estimated cost is about $2.2 million for that section. Tower Terrace, Winslow Road to Lennon, Phase 6 is actually our current phase, and that's what your project status sheet is on that Darren put together. So this was removing Indian Creek, doing that tie-in to Winslow, and where they got half of the paving done, but they still have the south lane to go yet that they'll do in the spring. So I know the audience can't read this, but this is your project template. So again, take a look at that. If you like what it looks like, or if you have recommendations for changes, let us know so that we can make those moving forward if there's more or less information that you want to see moving forward on that. And then the one that currently is a joint project with the City of Cedar Rapids is Tower Terrace C to Albernet Road. And this has the swap funding in it. Preliminary plans are being drawn up, and we will actually start the acquisitions as soon as those preliminary plans are determined. A lot of the city portion of this will go through the Kloback property. And then you can see at the intersection of C and Tower Terrace, the City of Cedar Rapids is proposing a roundabout there now. That originally was a signalized intersection, but they have since changed to the roundabout at that location. You can see in this case, we've also added some weaving to the street, so it's not just a straight line. That's for traffic calming, keep speeds down, and just make it so it doesn't feel like you're driving through Nebraska. So again, the current project, the approval of the amendments to switch it to swap funding occurred back in 6/12 of 18. We're currently on the current plans for the preliminary plans, and with that, then we'll determine what the right-of-way and acquisitions need. Check plan submittal is July 19th. The final plans to the DOT is proposed September of 19, a bid letting of November of 19, and starting construction of April of 2020. With the size of that project, we might have to break it into a couple different phases, but that's the plan, is to at least get some portion of that built. I know the west end, a lot of that was dependent on whether Hy-Vee was actually going to go in there. I know that I've heard mixed signals on whether Hy-Vee is actually going to build there. And then one that's not even on your CIP for the 5-year plan, but that's building that bridge between Winslow and Winslow, and that's a $12 million project. So that's one that we'll have to look and find funding for, and it'll be competing for money that we also need for like Albernet Road and other big projects. Again, for communications, we have a Tower Terrace specific page on the City of Marion. There's actually a video that you can watch that actually is like a bird's eye view of driving along Tower Terrace that was done quite a while ago by AMENT. We have our email distribution of engineering projects that goes out during the construction season, and again, we have specific open houses as it pertains to certain portions of that project. So we've had several at the CMPO with the new management plan. We'll have some more when we do C to Albernet, when we get those final plans done. We'll have to meet with all those property owners. There'll be a discussion with the C to Albernet plans because there's an annexation area C, which is basically, does Cedar Rapids take that area, or does the City of Marion take that area of that county subdivision? So there'll be some discussion that happens with that. Any questions on Tower Terrace? Paul?
Yeah, I have one. I know this year's construction season is still here. I've been waiting patiently to go to Cornhinge and go down the Indian Creek Road westbound. When in the world is that going to happen?
So it will not happen until the spring at the earliest, because we had that early snap of the cold weather. I mean, last week you couldn't tell that it was wintertime, but because of that early snap, the pavers are done for the year. So it will not happen until next construction season. So
it'll be next spring, are you saying?
Yeah, so if you look at your project sheet that's printed off on the back of it, you can see the risk delay that's in orange. August to November, underground infrastructure and westbound lane of Tower Terrace Road was constructed. However, eastbound lane had gradient and gas main conflicts that delayed subgrade and subbase installation. Eastbound paving will not incur until 2019. So in April, when it warms back up and the frost is out of the ground, that's when that'll get done.
Yes.
Sorry. I know this is the first of many of these presentations to come, but I appreciate the very high level and the way that this is organized. I mean, I'm going to spend some more time with it, but this is exactly what I've been kind of hinting toward. And even as we compile these, to Steve's point about being at the library and answering questions, the kinds of questions we get asked are exactly what you guys have on these sheets. So this will be a great resource for us. Thank you.
That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Yes, one more question. Go ahead.
Just a comment. As you know, new kid on the block up here, this was really helpful, right? Providing some background, who's involved, where we were, where we're going. And I would suspect that it's very helpful for our residents as well, although they've been paying attention, I'm sure, but to be reminded of where we are in the process. So this is a really great format. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
My question on this here, so on the back side, you've got some black blocks that says black, it's black, but it says on track. The other ones are green and it says on track. What's the difference between black and green?
There's just some formatting issues we're still working through, so it's just a template. They should all be green, but we're just having some formatting issues.
Okay, so it means no difference?
No.
Okay, okay.
Advantage of being colorblind, I guess.
Well.
Okay.
Thanks.
We're trying to make it so that when you select things, it automatically colors it for us, and just some things we got to work
Got
through.
it.
So.
This is how I designed it, so they'll pick and then it will automatically color for them, but they change the text and then the formula got messed up.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. This time we have a public forum for time set aside for comments from the public on topics other than those listed on the agenda. Anyone to address the council, please come forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please, thank you for your patience.
Yes.
Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Sandra Walton. I'm a resident at 4040 Shady Oak Drive in Marion. We are the older subdivision that was annexed by the city of Marion from Lynn County. We negotiated great terms, and I do want to point out that listening to the city allocating such monies as in the millions for progress is fantastic. I'm asking Marion to consider taking down a light that impacts most of the residents within this older established neighborhood from the corner of Williams and Shady Oak. And the reason for that is because we have been a neighborhood all into our own with no street lights. And we like it like that. I love the habitat of hearing the owls in the evening. There is a light, and though I am not directly that house that sits with the back facing that light, I am 2 houses down, and it shines into our backyard. And I don't hear the owls. Now, you might think that I'm talking only about owls. I am not. Since we are an existing neighborhood, I appreciate the values, and I find that light pollution to be an aversion to me. Now, you may not agree with me, but you do not live there. I do. Now, I've heard from a previous neighbor that I've had a conversation with that the city cannot take down the light. Understood. Can you please check into putting some type of a cap or a darkening upon that light that is LED and change that so it doesn't glare into my neighbor's backyard, into her bedroom, and nor my house 2 doors down. I understand the needs for lighting, adequate lighting in new neighborhoods, and I'm sure it's greatly appreciated. But as somebody that has lived here for many, many years, I prefer the darkness. I don't have any, disrespect for the city. As a matter of fact, I appreciate that for our new neighborhood. But I want you to consider my needs and also that of my neighbors that have signed a petition and sent it in. Please do what you can. If you're spending millions, can you please cap over that light for a neighborhood that's older? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
We might have questions, so you might want to say.
I'll
Anybody
be
have
happy
questions?
to try to
Anyone
answer.
have questions or comments?
Well, yeah, I need your address again. I want to come and look at that.
I would appreciate that. That would be lovely. Do it in the evening time. 4040 Shady Oak Drive. And like I said, I understand. It's just that I guess I want to say we were there first. And I know that doesn't seem fair, maybe, but in a way it is. Please be respectful of our desire to have it dark and the animals.
Okay.
So thank you. Anybody else?
Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Not personal? Yes.
I drove by there to take a look at it because I had spoken with Ms. Molman.
Yes,
Yes. And so what I noticed, what I think is my own opinion. Shoot, sorry. Do I need to start over? Okay.
Go ahead.
So in looking at it, I'd note two things. One, perhaps we could change the light bulb. I don't know. But most of the light bulbs in the neighborhood are more orange or yellow, and this one is a very bright white. So I would be in favor of something like that, but not removing the entire pole. But I did notice that Miss Molman's neighbor's garage light is probably just as intrusive. So it was very...
No, and I understand that. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is their choice. That is their choice as the homeowner.
I'm just making a point to your light pollution in your neighborhood, kumbaya, what you had going on. There are some instances of bright lights in there. So I wouldn't be in favor of taking down the pole, but the light bulb would be something that I would consider.
As I stated, I would like for someone to
Well, ma'am,
check
would you
into
please speak into the microphone? Because people listen to these meetings at home, and we want to be able to.
Oh, no, I hope not. Well, anyway, what I was going to say is, no, I understand, and we do have a lot of kumbaya. You can understand that because we hired attorneys when we were annexed. Now, I cannot stipulate what my neighbor does. I have a spotlight, too, that I could use, but it is my choice as a homeowner whether I use it. Oddly enough, I don't use it. What I've stated is true for me, and mine and all, in my home. I love to hear the owls. I keep my lights off. I like it pitch black. It's been like that for years and years. We did not grow into the city. The city grew into us. And we understand, and we have been accepting. And as you stated, no, maybe you cannot replace that light fixture. Maybe it's there and the intention is good. But yes, if we could find a resolve, that would be wonderful. And what little habitat is still left, thank goodness Todd Frazier was a very commendable builder, developer. He didn't want to take down all those trees. There is a lot of wildlife out there. We've seen fox. Now, do we want to eradicate them? No, but they are nocturnal. So let's give them a fighting chance to coexist with us. That's all I'm asking. Any other questions? Any? Okay, I'm ready to go home. But
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your sharing your view. Thank you. Anyone else to address the council? Please state your
Yes,
name and address.
I'm Annette Moling. I'm her neighbor, who it directly impacts, and I'm very sensitive to light. So that's why I moved into that neighborhood, because it was pitch dark. And when I was going around getting petitions, I will have letters for the 24th of other neighbors that wanted it removed. They don't like to see it. In fact, one of the gentlemen said, "Come into my bedroom, see what I see." And he is on Williams Drive, 2 houses from Shady Oak Road. And I don't mean to be a stickler, but I don't like seeing light night after night after night. Thank you. Are there any questions? I would like to have one question answered.
Yes.
Who was responsible for placing it at 400 feet. Whose idea was that? Was it the developer? Was it
For the exact location where it was placed?
Why it was placed at 400 feet?
In that specific location?
Yes.
Can someone answer that, or I don't? Yes.
Yeah, so that's done. I think you guys have received the TAC report that we'll receive and file at the next council meeting. But we have specifications that it's not supposed to be more than 600. So between Irish Drive and the edge of the subdivision was 850 feet. That's more than the 600 feet, so there had to be another light in there. So we actually put them at the two curves, which make great sense for those that are driving and using those to help acclimate when you're driving to see those curves. So the engineering department specifies where they go.
So it was you.
If that's where you want to, sure.
Okay. Okay, my other point is that speed limit is 25 miles per hour. How often has there been an accident? Have you had to remove a deer because they were hit? We're talking a pitch dark area. I had one of the officers, I'd like to have him give me a report the last 20 years, any accidents that have occurred in that area. I think that's fair.
Right, but the other side of that is that it's been a dead-end street. You know, I mean, it hasn't been gone through all the way, and so there may be more traffic on it now. What the engineering is saying is now there's curves that, is preferable to have them lighted for safety reasons. Is that correct? Or?
Correct.
I would like to see a strip put across there and see how much traffic is on that road, because I can tell you I probably count 5 cars in 3 hours.
But there are no houses there yet. I mean, we have to be realistic. There's a new subdivision that's been platted, but it's not been constructed yet. I see one house is going up, I think, down.
Oh, there's a lot of houses.
Well, no, but on that street right now. And, so we're talking about something we can't really measure at this point, but they're planning a subdivision and for the future traffic that could be going through there, whether it's going from 10th Street into the park or going through to Irish Drive and south. Am I saying something that's...
No,
I'm not the expert here, so...
That's why we put it in now rather than in the future. And the developer actually paid extra to put that special light in.
I'm sorry.
So he put basically when the developer puts the lights in, they have kind of a catalog that they pick from. And he actually picked a more expensive light for the aesthetics of it. Not necessarily the bulb, but the actual look of the pole itself. Because he has to sell those lots, and so he wants it to look nice.
Okay. But is there, and I know that you've come up with several alternatives. I mean, it seems to me that there's got to be a way to resolve this where, I mean, neither side is going to get everything, but where we can find something that makes everybody happy. I mean, I think the engineer has proposed that we can change the actual fixture itself so it's pointing downwards and it's not that the light doesn't protrude outwards.
I would like to have 2 of the sides for the annexed area to be painted black on those glass. So then all the light goes 300 feet the other direction.
Well, it would go north, and
it's
that
not
wouldn't do any
affecting
good.
our area.
It wouldn't light the street then, right?
Correct.
Is that correct? Because it's on the opposite side of the street. So, I thought about that after you mentioned it, but because of its location, if you do that, which may work in certain situations, but the way the light is there now, the fixture is, the light is gonna go to the north, which is not going to serve any purpose.
Well, they should be able to see the light.
It's not going to serve any purpose, but it's not going to light the street and the curve that they're concerned about. Is that correct?
Correct. They actually have shields that they can install, but when they went out and looked at it, if it was in our backyard, if it was on the south side, then they could put a shield up, but it's not. And that's the problem.
So you've looked at potentially using shields?
Yep.
And the other alternative was to use a light that is pointed directly downwards and projects less light outward.
Yeah, and we'll go over all that with the TAC report.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Is there a way of lowering the pole?
No.
Because right now I can lay in my bed and see that light through my curtains.
No, there's standards for how high it has to be.
Mhm.
And Renee, right?
Renee, yes.
Regarding the light that the neighbor has, they were probably letting their dogs out. They have dogs in the backyard. That isn't on all night. So that doesn't affect me. And the same way with the neighbor that's next to them on the other side. They have 2 dogs, and they probably were letting them out.
Okay, I'm just telling you what I saw.
No, I know. But I wanted you to be aware of why that was probably lit up. And that's why that isn't an issue. That doesn't bother me because my bedroom's not on that end. So when they take the dogs out at 1 a.m, it's not bothering me.
Okay. And you did receive the report that was
No, I
issued?
have
The
not.
TAC report? Oh, I thought you
I
told me
have
you
not.
read it. Okay. I misunderstood. I thought you told me that you had reviewed it.
Well, on my phone,
Okay.
which
So
I'm
you have
an
received, you
older
just haven't
person.
reviewed it all.
I haven't gotten the hard copy.
It just went out in the mail yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you will be getting
So
that.
I have
and-
not seen the hard copy.
Okay.
So I just can report back to the neighbors that there's no way you're going to remove it, and we'll still develop our letters and.
Well, we have to talk about it once we see the report.
Yeah,
and-
that's what.
and see what the alternatives
That's what the
are.
letter explains, is Thursday at the 24th is when they will actually make a decision.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks for your patience through the meeting.
Oops. Is that mine?
Anyone else address the council? Hi.
My name is Brent Gammerdinger, and I live at 1308 7th Street. So I'm here because, as you may or may not be aware, there was an incident at my neighbor's house at 13016 6th Street. There was a stabbing Sunday night, which isn't the first. It's the most violent incident, but it's not the first incident that we've had there. And so this is a rental property that we've been sort of having problems with for the last 2.5, maybe 3 years, with just different things, nuisances, disrespect towards me and my property and the neighbors and their property, and it's gotten to a point where it's escalated, and I would like to see something done about it, if there's anything we can do about it. That's why I'm here, I guess.
Okay. Chief?
If you leave me your name and number, I'd be glad to discuss with you after the meeting.
Okay.
Some things that are going on. I won't be able to get into anything specific, but I will tell you that the investigators are very well aware of activity that's going on there.
Okay, and I've made several calls to the police department concerning noise complaints, and then I've made calls to the city regarding just trash everywhere. Like, I have to walk through my yard every time I need to mow to pick up their trash, which I think is uncalled for. But I appreciate it.
We'll help you out, absolutely.
So,
See you afterwards.
all right.
Okay.
Any other
questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say real quick, I know there have been nuisance calls to that property, and we see that in our reports, that they're trying to get, the city's been working, trying to get the trash taken care of, that type of stuff. It's just, it takes time, obviously.
Right. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Hello,
My name is Alex Cruiser. I reside at 1230 7th Street, right across the street from the guy that spoke before me in regards to this house. It is kitty corner directly from my garage. I enjoy spending time in my garage working on things, and we've had some people we've noticed they come and go. It's a very transient house. They're there a week or two at a time, and then they move on. Anyway, I just don't appreciate when people walk into my garage. You know, it's kind of my space uninvited, looking for things to use and stuff. But yeah, 2.5 years we've had it. They're cleaning their cars out in the streets, no regard for public property or private property in that fact. And we'd just like to see a change. So, thank you.
Are you saying somebody's entered your garage?
Yeah, I was coming out of the house and I saw one of the guys. He wanted some duct tape.
Okay.
So he just walked in my garage.
So that's against the law?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know, feel free to call 911 immediately. If I'm sure you did or didn't, but
right.
if you
Well,
didn't, please
yeah.
call us immediately.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll give you my card afterwards too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else address the council? Yes, sir. If you can please state your name and address, and if you can fill out the card afterwards. Oh, you did already.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Dick Burnson, and I live at 580 Central Avenue. And I've lived there for almost 40 years now, so I've seen a lot of things going on in the neighborhood. And really, it's a great neighborhood. I've enjoyed it. Up until the Revolving Door Motel opened up at 1301 6th Street, the same property that the last two folks have been talking about. And it's really a disgraceful blight on the neighborhood. One of my biggest complaints is the garbage. And I've been up to City Hall numerous times complaining about it. And I'm always told that all we can do is go to the owner and ask him to clean it up. And normally, someone tries to clean it up. It's usually a very poor job, but within a few days, it's the same as it was. And there's an area just outside of their sliding door going into the kitchen that is a buffet for the raccoons coming up from Indian Creek, the cats, probably rats, and I don't know what else, but it's terrible. Hygienically, it's a mess, not very healthy for anybody, and a real eyesore. We're all getting tired of looking at it. And I'm not sure what can be done about it, but the owner doesn't seem to care. The people that live there, the tenants there, are mostly transients, I think, and they really don't care about anything.
You know if the landlord is local or absent landlord?
He's local.
Local.
Would you like his name?
Well, we can get that. We can, yeah.
Anyway, there have been lots of things happening there. Sunday night, we had a stabbing there. That's not the first one. The police have been there numerous times for other reasons, whether it be abuse, loudness, partying, all kinds of things going on. In the warm months, in the summertime, there's often a group of people out on the patio, very loud, vulgar, and my kids don't even want to bring my grandkids over there anymore when it's warm, because these people are really offensive. There's junk vehicles around from time to time. It's just not a good environment for anyone in the neighborhood. I don't think we should have to live around that. So I guess I'm asking that it be looked into and we try to find some ways to resolve the problem. I don't really know the people that live there. Like I say, it's a lot of transients. They're in and out. You just don't really get to know anyone. They don't want to know any of us, really. So, especially the garbage problem, I'd really like to have that resolved one way or another. I pick up more garbage in a week than goes into my own garbage cans. It's in my yard, it's in the roadway, it's in all of the neighbors' yards.
How is it getting into your yard? I mean, is it
The
intentionally?
wind blows it.
Just
It's
by
not
wind.
in
Okay.
cans.
It's not intentionally being
No.
thrown in your yard. Okay.
It's laying around out on the
Yeah.
grass.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that's the problem. It's distributed by the wind, basically.
Sure.
Any questions?
Okay. So is that something that we could follow up on in terms of the nuisance aspect?
I get
besides the
briefed about
police
things as the chief. I get briefed about certain things that are of certain importance, and I know of this, and I'll just leave it at that for right now, if that's okay. I just want to tell you thank you so much for coming in, all of you. We're going to do the best we can for you, and that's all I can say in a public forum.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, we'll proceed to council discussion time. Start with Councilwoman Gadela.
Okay, two things. One, I just want to apologize in advance. I'm going to be out of the country from the 19th to the 27th, so I'm going to miss the work session, the public meeting, one of the two budget meetings. So
Not acceptable.
it's for work. Sorry, I'm going to London. Anyway, so I'll be looking at the reports and things as they come in, and I have a meeting set with the city manager before I leave to try to get ahead on the budget stuff so I can hit the ground running with the second one, but I just want to explain my absence. And then the second one, on a lighter note, is it's a huge weekend for the NFL. I won't make it personal. I just hope for some good competitive games, and those of you who are regulars know where my heart is, so go team. That's it for me.
Real quick, I just want to pass this along. I got a very nice card sent to me from the Webelos 2 Cub Scouts Pack 58. So in, I guess it would have been November, I went and sat, and they took a nice picture and sent it to me with all the kids. Went and sat with these young men and just spent half hour, 45 minutes answering their questions about the city and how the city works. And it was a lot of fun. They had some great questions. Some were a little unrealistic questions about the world, but nothing we can. Anyway, I want to thank them for sending me the card. It was very nice of them.
Nice.
I have nothing. Thank you, though.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are you catching up for lost time?
Well, Will made mention that you've missed me a little bit on what was in the block where the current library is. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. You know, originally, the county courthouse stood on the corner, and it was sold finally at auction in 1925 for $1,200, but it was really in bad shape. But when we started talking about the library in that block, there were 3 homes, 2 of them brick. There was, some of you would remember the Gordon Hatchery, which became the Marion Ski and Recreation Store. We actually had a ski dealer in Marion, Iowa, and they developed the Squaw Creek Hill out there. They put a tow rope in, and you could go out there and ski down that hill or toboggan down it or whatever. And the interesting thing about Marion Ski and Recreation is it moved from there over to 7th and 7th, which some of you will remember as a liquor store, state-owned liquor store. Some of you, if you're a bit older, would remember it as a Hudson dealership. So that building had its ownership, but Marion Ski moved to that building, and the interesting thing was the K2 Ski Company 9 years in a row, gave away a Porsche car. And every time a pair of skis were sold, the salesperson would write their name and send it in on a card. 2 out of 9 years, a ski shop in Marion, Iowa, the kid won a Porsche. Wow. Two different kids. 2 out of 9 years. I mean, who would? There's ski shops all over the country.
One of those kids was my uncle.
Is that right?
No. That would have been 1979, 1980, and the next year his best friend won.
Wow. And, you know, the possibility of that with a number of ski shops is unbelievable. Well, that building was a county building. Gordon Hatchery was in the Marion Ski Shop. Next to that, there was a bar with rental rooms upstairs. And a period of time when the Milwaukee Road was coming through here, it was really important because we were a division point. And a division point on the rail was a post where the guy worked as long as he could without getting overtime. So that was a division point, and they had all these rental rooms available in Marion for those people. We had, not far from our 7th Avenue roundabout, a turnaround where an engine could pull in and be turned around and go the other way. We had 14 railroad tracks back there. So Marion was, in fact, a railroad town. But in addition to that, we had what was the county jail at one time that had become the police department. And that building, when the council voted to tear that whole block down, was the oldest or one of the oldest continually used municipal buildings west of the Mississippi River. So it was a major, major loss. Chief would remember Chief Ford, previous fire chief, lived there when his dad was Leighton Ford, who was the chief of police, and they lived upstairs in that building. And I, for one, because I had a little bit to do with it, would hope that the only bit of that building that remains is the flagpole in the center of the park out from the depot. It's an iron pole. Virgil Coonrod's company moved it for us, and it's important that we keep that painted and we keep that historically available. But those are the battles that the city council fought then. You had the 3 houses, 2 of them brick. You had the Marion Ski Shop building, which later became a printed circuit company, because when they tore it down, the alleyway was full of dirty soil that they had been dumping the acid in. And you had the bar and motel on the corner, and then the old jailhouse, and all of that had to be removed so we could build the library. And those were tough times. Those are tough times for a council to historically destroy all of that from the era when we were, in fact, the county seat. So there you go, Will. That's.
Thank you. It's great to have you back. For my part, I just want to, congratulations to the city of Marion on, again, being in the top 10% of small cities in the United States for livability, as ranked by Wallet Hub. And State of the City luncheon is on January 31st. The Marriott tickets can be reserved on the League of Women Voters website. Hope to see a lot of people there. So, okay, we Before we adjourn, we have a closed session, so we need a motion to adjourn the closed session.
I make a motion to adjourn the closed session regarding land acquisition as permitted under section 21.5, paragraph 1. Is that a J? Subsection J of the Code of Iowa.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the closed session regarding land acquisition as permitted by the Code of Iowa. We have an opinion of council.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I have reviewed the material that is the subject of the proposed closed session. It is my opinion that this is an appropriate subject to consider in closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5, subsection 1, subsection J, and recommend that the council adjourn to closed session.
Okay. Do we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Draper?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mayor Abu Osley?
Yes?
Mr. Sternad?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Ms. Gedalia?
Yes.
We adjourn to closed session and we'll return to open session after that's completed. So.